I still think it's very possible that Bitcoin will be worth more than $100,000 in 4 years, and maybe even more than that to a new high. In other words, Bitcoin moves every year in 10 days. Some of those best days will probably still happen in 4 years. That was Tom Lee's guess that Bitcoin would be worth more than $100,000 by the end of the year, maybe even a new all-time high. A lot of you are already saying what I know. It's not going to happen because it's Tom Lee, because Tom Lee has been wrong so far in 2025, but almost no one has been right the whole time. It's because the cycle has changed, things have changed, and we're going to talk about it. I do agree with Tom, though. I do believe that by the end of the month, Bitcoin prices could be over 100,000 USD, which could even be a new all-time high. Just wait, I'm going to explain why right now. So let's begin by taking a look at the market. Things have been going well on the market. There is still a lot of fear and greed around 24. So we're still in the scared range. Okay, so this has gone from very scared to 24 in the last 30 days. We did drop to about 10 pounds. I know that there were some signs out there that said things like 9 and 8. I know that stocks were down around 6 o'clock because I remember that in April we hit about 4 for deep fear. We didn't really get that low, but once more, we've reached the most terrifying depths of fear. The hardest thing about predicting 2025 is that based on what happened in the market prices from November 2024 to January 2025, everyone thought it would be a huge year for crypto. The market, on the other hand, has been very bearish since January and is now officially in a slight bear market. Because of this, it's been very hard. Again, all the signs pointed to being very hopeful, but the market wasn't bullish. Why is that the case? That's one thing, and we'll talk about that one thing again later in this movie. I'm going to bring this up again. We're going to talk about it. In terms of how much crypto is worth on the market, we've been floating around $3+ trillion, just above 3 trillion. As you can see, Bitcoin is back above $90,000 and XRP is back above $2, which is good. I think this week, though, that stocks are the most important thing to pay attention to because they could take crypto much higher. Right now, stocks are less than 1% away from setting a new all-time high. The best thing about the S&P is that this chart now shows a new high. This is especially true after Friday's close. We had a bigger high point. It was great to see this. Also, this is what we've been talking about on a lot of these maps about what we want to see. What we want is for positive structure to show up. When the highs get higher, it means that the bullish pattern is back on the chart. That's why we're looking at this next high, also known as the all-time high, which we are now less than 1% away from hit. Things like that could happen this week since we have a very busy week ahead of us. It's been a big week for those who don't know. Tuesday is JOLT's report on job openings, and Wednesday is the FOMC rate decision. Also on Wednesday, there's a press conference by Fed Chair Powell, and on Thursday, we get the first figures on jobless claims. This week has a lot of exciting things coming up. Also, this week is going to be very unstable. I mean, I wouldn't really expect anything else but big changes in the market. You shouldn't have to worry about much as long as you don't use pressure. But it's clear that this week will be very important with big changes happening both up and down. Also, I already said that this week is a big one, so we will see what this chart wants to do. To be honest, I think it wants to reach a new all-time high, but the real question is whether we'll see a repeat of the gap, which we already have at about 6,776 before the big break of the all-time high. This is what everyone would expect, and the rest of the crypto market would follow suit. We've been kind of stuck on stock action up until now. An interesting thing is that we haven't really gone with the S&P to new all-time highs. It has been a little slow. As an example, on the 29th, the S&P hit a new all-time high. I think Bitcoin reached a new all-time high, and we can see that right now on the chart. Let me look at this over the course of 24 hours. On October 6th, we reached a new high point. So, Bitcoin has been going up first, and then stocks are going up after it. Again, there's a small delay. And it's almost the opposite now that Bitcoin hasn't been doing much. On the other hand, prices are almost at a new all-time high. Of course, that's why I'm really interested in how stocks and Bitcoin do this week. We've been looking at one main thing, and I've been talking about it for a few days now. Basically, I've been focusing on this one big thing on the chart all week, this trend line. Now, we could definitely go lower, even though we have a nice low here on the board. I still think that Bitcoin could take out this like 86,000 level. So far, we've broken down to about 87.8 KAK, and stocks could retest this gap this week. It's not even a crazy drop here. That's about 1.39%, I think. We could choose a double top, also known as a double local top. It's possible that we'll go down 0.73% before we retake that gap. That's about 2%. And then we'll move back above all-time highs, which would be a 2+% push to the upside. I would expect this, and this could definitely make crypto volatile as well. For example, Bitcoin did retake the trend line, chop a bit, and then make a big breakout to a new high based on the lower time frame structure. Now, if we look at this over the last 24 hours, we can see that the price level came very close to hitting this trend line again. Well, it's great to see that we are still making lower lows. On the whole, Bitcoin's chart has been very strong. What I see here looks good to me, very good in terms of structure. This is something I want to see if it stays the same all week. It needs to. Obviously, it's still a big deal for me to get proof that the market is having a much bigger turnaround and that we're starting to see that big push to 100,000 or even new all-time highs by the end of the year. Tom Lee did give us that information at the start of the video, but let's watch it again to see what else he has to say. Look it over. I do believe that Bitcoin will reach a new high point by the end of January. So I don't think we should think that Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any other cryptocurrency is at its highest point. A lot of it will rest on stocks getting better, which we think they will. That will boost people's spirits, and I think a new Fed share will do the same. As Becky said, when people worry about a hawkish Federal Reserve, it hurts discount models like AI models and crypto models as well. With a dovish Fed, things will go in a better direction. So yeah, I mean, listen, we're obviously paying attention to what the Fed does because it could change the future of this space right away. That's why this week is going to be so important. However, we are taking a look at a number of things in this market, what's getting better, what's different about this whole space. Of course, when it comes to things like XRP, we've been talking about it for the past few weeks in terms of how its price has changed. We've been talking about XRP for more than 4 years, so I'm not just going to talk about the basics. When we look at a lot of these charts, the main thing we look at is whether the trend line or support line is being kept. When it comes to XRP, we don't really have a trend. In the beginning we did, but we did fail through that. Right now, all we're really thinking about is support holding, which is what keeps us alive. That's not the main thing we're looking at here with XRP or the rest of the market. Bitcoin is included because Bitcoin should carry XRP once Bitcoin's power starts to break down. This time, the most important thing is for the market to have a better turnaround. We can only expect that to happen if funding gets better. At the start of this movie, I talked about how everyone was optimistic about 2025. The only thing that changed in 2025 was that there wasn't enough cash on hand.